The philosophy of the dogmatists, it is to be hoped, was only a promise for thousands of years afterwards, as was astrology in still earlier times, in the service of which probably more labor, gold, acuteness, and patience have been spent than on any actual science hitherto. We owe to it, and to its super-terrestrial pretensions in Asia and Egypt, the grand style of architecture. It seems that in order to inscribe themselves upon the heart of humanity with everlasting claims, all great things have first to wander about the earth as enormous and awe-inspiring caricatures. Dogmatic philosophy has been a caricature of this kind. For instance, the Vedanta doctrine in Asia, and Platonism in Europe. Let us not be ungrateful to it, although it must certainly be confessed that the worst, the most tiresome, and the most dangerous of errors hitherto has been a dogmatist error, namely Plato's invention of pure spirit, and the good in itself. But now when it has been surmounted, when Europe, rid of this nightmare, can again draw breath freely, and at least enjoy a healthier sleep, we, whose duty is wakefulness itself, are the heirs of all the strength which the struggle against this error has fostered. It amounted to the very inversion of truth, and the denial of the perspective, the fundamental condition of life, to speak of spirit and the good as Plato spoke of them. Indeed, one might ask, as a physician, how did such a malady attack the finest product of antiquity, Plato? Had the wicked Socrates really corrupted him? Was Socrates, after all, a corrupter of youths, and deserved his hemlock? But the struggle against Plato, or, to speak plainer, and for the people, the struggle against the ecclesiastical oppression of millenniums of Christianity, for Christianity is Platonism for the people, produced in Europe a magnificent tension of soul, such as had not existed anywhere previously. With such a tensely strained bow, one can now aim at the furthest goals. As a matter of fact, the European feels this tension as a state of distress, and twice attempts have been made in grand style to unbend the bow, once by means of Jesuitism, and the second time by means of democratic enlightenment, which, with the aid of liberty of the press and newspaper reading, might, in fact, bring it about that the spirit would not so easily find itself in distress. The Germans invented gunpowder, all credit to them, but they again made things square, and they invented printing. But we, who are neither Jesuits, nor Democrats, nor even sufficiently Germans, we good Europeans, and free, very free spirits, we have it still, all the distress of spirit and all the tension of its bow, and perhaps also the arrow, the duty.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information and to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Rainer Opgenrein. Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. Chapter 5. The Natural History of Morals. 186. The moral sentiment in Europe at present is perhaps as subtle, related, diverse, sensitive and refined as the science of morals belonging thereto is recent, initial, awkward and close-fingered, an interesting contrast, which sometimes becomes incarnate and obvious in the very person of the moralist. Indeed, the expression science of morals is, in respect to what is designated thereby, partly presumptuous and counter to good taste, which is always a foretaste of more modest expressions. One ought to avow with the utmost fairness what is still necessary here for a long time, what is alone proper for the present, namely the collection of material, the comprehensive survey and classification of an immense domain of delicate sentiments of worth and distinction of worth, which live, grow, propagate and perish, and perhaps attempts to give a clear idea of the recurring and more common forms of these living crystallizations, as preparation for a theory of types of morality. be sure, people have not hitherto been so modest. All the philosophers, with a pedantic and ridiculous seriousness, demanded of themselves something very much higher, more pretentious and ceremonious, when they concerned themselves with morality as a science. They wanted to give a basic to morality. And every philosopher hitherto has believed that he has given it a basis. Morality itself, however, has been regarded as something given. How far from their awkward pride was a seemingly insignificant problem, left in dust and decay, of a description of forms of morality, notwithstanding that the finest hands and senses could hardly be fine enough for it. It was precisely owing to moral philosophers knowing the moral facts imperfectly, in an arbitrary epitome, or accidental abridgment. Perhaps it's the morality of their environment, their position, their church, their zeitgeist, their climate, and so on. It was precisely because they were badly instructed with regards to nations, eras, and past ages, and were by no means eager to know about these matters, as they did not even come inside of the real problems of morals, problems which only disclose themselves by a comparison of many kinds of morality. In every science of morals hitherto, strange as it may sound, the problem of morality itself has been omitted. There has been no suspicion that there was anything problematic there, that which philosophers called giving a basis to morality, an endeavor to realize, has, when seen in a right light, proved merely a learned form of good faith in prevailing morality, a new means of its expression, consequently just a matter of fact, as to the sphere of a definite morality. Yet, its ultimate motive, a sort of denial that it is lawful for its morality to be called in question. And in any case, the reverse of the testing, analyzing, doubting, and vivisecting of this very faith. Here, for instance, what was innocent, almost worthy of honor. Schopenhauer represents his own task, and draw your conclusions concerning the scientificness of a science whose latest master still talks in the strain of children and old wives. The principle, he says, page 136 of the Grundprobleme der Ethik, the axiom about the purport of which all moralists are practically agreed, neminem laede immo omnes quantum potes juva, is really the proposition which all moral teachers strive to establish, the real basis of ethics which has been thought, like the philosopher's stone, for centuries. The difficulty of establishing the proposition referred to may indeed be great. It is well known that Schopenhauer also was unsuccessful in his efforts, and whoever has thoroughly realized how absurdly false and sentimental this proposition is, in a world whose essence is will to power, may be reminded that Schopenhauer, also a pessimist, actually played the flute daily after dinner. One may read about the matter in his biography. A question by the way. A pessimist, a repudiator of God and of the world, who makes a halt at morality, who assents to morality and plays the flute to laede neminem morals. What? Is that really a pessimist? 187. Apart from the value of such assertion as there is a categorical imperative in us, one can always ask, what does such an assertion indicate about him who makes it? There are a system of morals which are meant to justify their author in the eyes of other people. Other systems of morals are meant to tranquilize him and make himself satisfied. With other systems he wants to crucify and humble himself. With others he wishes to take revenge. With others to conceal himself. With others to glorify himself and gain superiority and distinction. This system of morals helps its author to forget that system makes him, or something of him, forgotten. Many a moralist would like to exercise power and creative arbitrariness over mankind, many another, perhaps Kant especially, gives us to understand by his morals that what is estimable in me is that I know how to obey, and with you it shall not be otherwise than with me. In short, systems of morals are only a sign language of the emotions. 188. In contrast to laissez-aller, every system of morals is a sort of tyranny against nature, and also against reason. That is, however, no objection, unless one should again decree by some system of morals that all kinds of tyranny and unreasonableness are unlawful. What is essential and invaluable in every system of morals is that it is a long constraint. In order to understand Stoicism, or Port-Royal, or Puritanism, one should remember the constraint under which every language has attained to strength and freedom. Symmetrical constraint, the tyranny of rhyme and rhythm. How much trouble have the poets and orators of every nation given themselves, not accepting some of the prose writers of today, in whose ear dwells an inexorable consciousness, not accepting some of the prose writers of today, in whose ear dwells an inexorable consciousness. For the sake of a folly, a utilitarian bunglers say, and thereby deem themselves wise, from submission to arbitrary law, as the anarchists say, and thereby fancy themselves free, even free-spirited. The singular fact remains, however, that everything of the nature of freedom, elegance, boldness, dance, and masterly certainty, which exists or has existed, whether it be in thought itself, or in admiration, or in speaking and persuading, in an art as in conduct, has only developed by means of the tyranny of such arbitrary law, and in all seriousness, it is not at all improbable that precisely this is nature and natural, and not laissez-aller. Every artist knows how different from the state of letting himself go is his most natural condition, the free arranging, locating, disposing, and constructing in the moments of inspiration, and how strictly and delicately he then obeys 1,000 laws, which, by their very rigidness and precision, defy all formulation by means of ideas. Even the most stable idea has, in comparison therewith, something floating, manifold, and ambitious in it. The essential thing in heaven and in earth is, apparently, to repeat it once more, that there should belong obedience in the same direction. There thereby results, and has always resulted in the long run, something which has made the life worth living. For instance, virtue, art, music, dancing, reason, spirituality, anything whatever that is transfiguring, refined, foolish, or divine. The long bondage of the spirit, the distrustful constraint in the communicability of ideas, the discipline which the thinker imposed on himself to think in accordance with the rules of a church or a court, or comfortable to Aristotelian premises, the persistent spiritual will to interpret everything that happened according to a Christian scheme, and in every occurrence to rediscover and justify the Christian God. All this violence, arbitrariness, severity, dreadfulness, and unreasonableness has proved itself as disciplinary means whereby the European spirit has attained its strength, its remorseless curiosity and subtle mobility. Granted also that much irrecoverable strength in spirit has to be stifled, suffocated, and spoiled in the process. For here, as everywhere, nature shows herself as she is, in all her extravagant and indifferent magnificence, which is shocking, but nevertheless noble. That for centuries thinkers only thought in order to prove something nowadays. On the contrary, we are suspicious of every thinker who wishes to prove something, that it was always settled beforehand what was to be the result of the strictest thinking, as it was perhaps in the Asiatic astrology of former times, or as it is still at the present day in the innocent, Christian moral explanation of the immediate personal events, for the glory of God, or for the good of the soul. This tyranny, this arbitrariness, this severe and magnificent stupidity has educated the spirit. Slavery, both in the coarser and the finer sense, is apparently an indispensable means even of spiritual education and discipline. One may look at every system of morals in this light. It is nature therein which teaches to hate the laissez-aller, the too great freedom, and implants the need for limited horizons, for immediate duties. It teaches the narrowing of perspectives, and thus, in a certain sense, that stupidity is a condition of life and development. You must obey someone, and for a long time, otherwise you will come to grief and lose all respect for yourself. This seems to me the moral imperative of nature, which is certainly neither categorical, as old Kant wished, consequently the otherwise, nor does it address itself to the individual. What does nature care for the individual, but to nations, races, ages and ranks, above all, however, to the animal man generally, to mankind. 189. Industrious races find it a great hardship to be idle. It was a masterstroke of the English instinct to hallow and begloom Sunday to such an extent that the Englishman unconsciously hankers for his week and workday again, as a kind of cleverly devised, cleverly intercalated fast, such as is also frequently found in the ancient world, although, as is appropriate in southern nations, not precisely with respect to work. Many kinds of fasts are necessary, and wherever powerful influences and habits prevail, legislators have to see that intercalary days are appointed, on which such impulses are fettered, and learn to hunger anew. Viewed from a higher standpoint, whole generations and epochs, when they show themselves infected with any moral fanaticism, seem like those intercalated periods of restraint and fasting, during which an impulse learns to humble and submit itself, at the same time also to purify and sharpen itself. Certain philosophical sects likewise admit of similar interpretation. For instance, the Stoa, in the midst of Hellenic culture, with the atmosphere rank and overcharged with aphrodisiacal odors. Here also is a hint for the explanation of the paradox, why it was precisely in the most Christian period of European history, and in general only under the pressure of Christian sentiments, that the sexual impulse sublimated into love, amor, passion. 190. There is something in the morality of Plato which does not really belong to Plato, but which only appears in his philosophy, one might say, in spite of him, namely, Socratism, for which he himself was too noble. No one desires to injure himself, hence all evil is done unwittingly. The evil man inflicts injury on himself. He would not do so, however, if he knew that evil is evil. The evil man, therefore, is only evil through error, and when free from error, one will necessarily make him good. This mode of reasoning savours of the populace, who perceive only the unpleasant consequences of evil-doing, and practically judge that it is stupid to do wrong, while they accept good as identical with useful and pleasant, without further thought. As regards every system of utilitarianism, one may at once assume that it has the same origin, and follow the scent. One will seldom err. Plato did all he could to interpret something refined and noble into the tenets of his teacher, and above all, to interpret himself into them. He, the most daring of all interpreters, who lifted the entire Socrates out of the streets as a popular theme and song to exhibit him in endless and impossible modifications, namely in all his own disguises and multiplicities. In jest, and in numeric language as well, what is the Platonic Socrates, if not proste Platon opiten, te Platon te se te humaire. 191. The old theological problem of faith and knowledge, or more plainly, of instinct and reason. The question whether, in respect to the valuation of things, instinct deserves more authority than rationality, which wants to appreciate and act according to motives, according to a why, that is to say, in conformity to purpose and utility. It is always the old moral problem that first appeared in the person of Socrates, and had divided men's minds long before Christianity. Socrates himself, following, of course, the taste of his talent, that of a surpassing dialectician, took at first the side of reason, and, in fact, what did he do all his life but laugh at the awkward incapacity of the noble Athenians, who were men of instinct, like all noble men, and could never give satisfactory answers concerning the motives of their actions. In the end, however, though silently and secretly, he laughed also at himself. With his finer conscience and introspection, he found in himself the same difficulty and incapacity. But why, he said to himself, should one on that account separate oneself from the instincts? One must set them right, and the reason also. One must follow the instinct, but at the same time persuade the reason to support them with good arguments. This was the real falseness of that great and mysterious ironist. He brought his conscience up to the point that he was satisfied with a kind of self-outwitting. In fact, he perceived the irrationality in the moral judgment. Plato, more innocent in such matters, and without the craftiness of the plebeian, wished to prove to himself, at the expenditure of all his strength, the greatest strength a philosopher had ever expended, that reason and instinct lead spontaneously to the one goal, to the good, to God. And since Plato, all theologians and philosophers have followed the same path, which means that in matters of morality, instinct, or as Christians call it, faith, or as I call it, the herd, has hitherto triumphed. Unless one should make an exception in the case of Descartes, the father of rationalism, and consequently the grandfather of the revolution, who recognized only the authority of reason, but reason is only a tool, and Descartes was superficial. 192. Whoever has followed the history of a single science finds in its development a clue to the understanding of the oldest and commonest processes of all knowledge and cognizance. There, as here, the premature hypothesis, the fiction, the good stupid will to believe, and the lack of distrust and patience are first developed. Our senses learn late, and never learn completely, to be subtle, reliable, and cautious organs of knowledge. Our eyes find it easier on a given occasion to produce a picture already often produced, than to seize upon the divergence and novelty of an impression. The latter requires more force, more morality. It is difficult and painful for the ear to listen to anything new. We hear strange music badly. When we hear another language spoken, we involuntarily attempt to form the sounds into words with which we are more familiar and conversant. It was thus, for example, that the Germans modified the spoken word arqueballista into armbrust, that means crossbow. Our senses are also hostile and averse to the new, and generally, even in the simplest procession of sensation, the emotions dominate, such as fear, love, hatred, and the passive emotion of indolence. As little as a reader nowadays reads all the single words, not to speak of syllables, of a page. He rather takes about 5 out of every 20 words at random, and guesses the probably appropriate sense to them. Just as little do we see a tree correctly and completely in respect to its leaves, branches, color, and shape. We find it so much easier to fancy the charms of a tree. Even in the midst of the most remarkable experiences, we still do just the same. We fabricate the greater part of the experience, and can hardly be made to contemplate any event, except as an adventurous thereon. All this goes to prove that from our fundamental nature and from remote ages we have been accustomed to lying, or, to express it more politely and hypocritically, in short, more pleasantly. One is much more of an artist than one is aware of. In an animated conversion, I often see the faces of persons with whom I am speaking, so clearly and sharply defined before me, according to the thought he expresses, or which I believe to be evoked in his mind, that the degree of distinctness far exceeds the strength of my visual faculty. The delicacy of the play of the muscles and of the expression of the eyes must, therefore, be imagined by me. Probably the person put on quite a different expression, or none at all. 193. Quid lucif fuit, tenebris agit, but also contrariwise. What we experience in dreams, provided we experience it often, pertains at last just as much to the general belongings of our soul as anything actually experienced. By virtue thereof, we are richer or poorer, we have a requirement more or less, and finally, in broad daylight, and even in the brightest moments of our waking life, we are ruled to some extent by the nature of our dreams. Supposing that someone has often flown in his dreams, and then at last, as soon as he dreams, he is conscious of the power and art of flying as his privilege, and his peculiarly inviolable happiness. Such a person, who believes that on the slightest impulse he can actually all sorts of cursed angels, who knows the sensation of a certain divine levity, and upwards, without effort or constraint, and downwards, without ascending or lowering, without trouble. How could the man with such dream experiences and dream habits fail to find happiness differently colored and defined, even in his waking hours? How could he fail to long differently for happiness? Flying, such as is described by poets, must, when compared with his own flying, be far too earthy, muscular, violent, far too troublesome for him. 194. The difference among men does not manifest itself only in the difference of their list of desirable things, in their regarding different good things as worth striving for, and being disagreed as to the greater or less value of the order of rank of the commonly recognized desirable thing. It manifests itself much more in what they regard as actually having and possessing a desirable thing. As regards to a woman, for instance, the control over her body and her sexual gratification serves as an amply sufficient sign of ownership and possession to the more modest man. Another, with a more suspicious and ambitious thirst for possession, sees the questionableness, the mere apparentness of such ownership, and wishes to have finer tests in order to know, especially whether
is a tragedy.
I know, that just makes me sick. Alright, well, I started recording at 29:51. I better write this down so I can, I don't know, provide a...
Tuck rule!
Yeah, definitely, coming into play. Oh, well, okay, folks. Tim has been doing an excellent job announcing as a radio announcer. We've linked you to this point because I just now figured out that Pamela was being her unfaithful self and refusing to record earlier. I seem to be running into this problem on a regular basis, so much so that it's almost the cost of doing business, so to speak. But I'll hand it back to Tim, who's been taking command here. As you can see, it's 20-0 Constantinople. If you've just linked over here, I'll probably have linked the highlights that show how we got here. Several Mandalore turnovers and Constantinople taking full advantage, but you will now get to hear the radio voice of Tim LaBarbera, which I am quite impressed with, and look forward to hearing, at least for the remainder of this game, even though we tragically lost the first 30 minutes.
All of you out there will just have to take my word for it, that all of my best jokes were in the first half an hour.
Indeed.
As I proceed to be not funny for the rest of this commentary.
That's right, folks. You missed it.
Meanwhile, Gandalf back to pass. Short to the outside for 1 yard. 3rd and 10 Mandalore. Gandalf's been having some good plays over the course of the game, but can't seem to escape a significant turnover problem. He goes deep and is almost picked off yet again. Another dangerous pass from Gandalf.
Indeed. A linebacker gets it. You know, Gandalf is showing his true colors, I guess, that when you pressure him, he gets in trouble, because he's just been able to stand back there, pick apart team after team on this 3-game run that Mandalore's gone on since their opening loss. But Jeff's team mobile showed they could be stopped, and it's continuing to be true.
Even the wise cannot see all ends, and this appears to be particularly the case for Gandalf, who appears to be having tunnel vision.
Most definitely. I love the connection of the timeless quote with Gandalf the Wise. Or is he the wise? For some reason I have that in my head. Might be wrong.
I don't believe he is ever specifically referred to in that manner.
Right, but he's expected to be wise. He's looked to for wisdom. So I think it works. But.
Well, that is a quote of Gandalf directly from
Oh,
Lord
of course. Okay, I figured you had. Yeah. There we go. Awesome.
He's discussing Gollum with Frodo and the nature of pity. And now I sound like a robot.
Well, it really is a shame, though, because I put you on the commentary track, and you really were truly on a roll. But,
I'll just try to have to get back on form.
There we go. Some,
Hopefully, with some additional practice, I will be able to do this quite naturally.
Sure. I'm looking forward to it. I'm honestly kind of heartbroken that I'm not going to get to listen to the playback of the first 30.
First down, Mandalore, a pass to the left side in middle range for 6 yards. 2nd and 4 at the 35.
Strong bad on the catch.
Dangerous throw at the last second for -1 yard.
Yeah, decapitation station there as he just hangs his man out to dry. Number 10, Brett the Hitman Hart on the receiving end that time.
Big 3rd down for Mandalore. They need to sustain a drive. 3-man front again for Constantinople. Big catch across the 40-yard line for a first down for Mandalore.
Die-hard John McClane making sure his team dies hard with a 3rd down conversion. Had to take that one when it was there.
Every opportunity, Corey.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and I'm not sure what that was supposed to be. It was mostly just Gandalf running around aimlessly with the ball.
Yeah.
It appears it might have been a try at the option with the Predator out to the left.
It was. It's the dreaded...
covered.
It's the dreaded speed option play call with Gandalf running it. Oh, sacked.
And some penetration both up the middle and on the left side for the Byzantines leads to a sack.
Yeah.
That was Isaac Komnenis up the middle.
There we go. Oh boy, 3rd and 22.
They desperately need this first down. Byzantines stocking the line. He has time. Oh, out across the 50, to the 30, the 20, the 10. Touchdown, Mandalore.
Yeah, he has to step up, step into his throw. Brett the Hitman Hart runs a solid route. You know, once again, he gets time to throw, and not just Drew Brees time, but pocket passer time, and he is able to pick apart the defense.
No penetration by the Byzantine defense on that play.
Well, it is possible. We just had a game last week where it was 10-0, I think as late as like 2 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter between Macho Madness and Marion, or excuse me, UFP, now that we're in the off season. And that one ended up 24-10. Going to be a little more difficult for Mandalore to pull that off against the Byzantines, though.
Their defense needs to step up in a big way. They really can't afford to allow any more points. Byzantines to Heraclius across the 25 to the 27. 2nd and 3. They really need to be able to stop this running game.
Yeah.
And Heraclius across the 30. 1st and 10 Byzantines.
Those DTs just can't let themselves get beat like that. They weigh a ton, they're real strong, they're low to the ground, and they take up their one blocker, but they have to do better than that because they're the bedrock this defense is built on. They have to plug up that entire middle. They're not getting it done.
That may have been another attempt at a screen play. They came right through.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, I'm kind of okay with that because that allows the 99 speed of the Mandalore DTs to shine through, although a human wouldn't call that play.
Heraclius up the middle for 6 yards, 3rd and long. If the Byzantines can sustain a drive here through the beginning of the 4th quarter, this could be the end for Mandalore.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Mandalore has a clear path to the win, but that path definitely involves just a perfect 4th quarter. You know, a stop starting on this play, 2 touchdown drives.
The Doctor out of the shotgun, plenty of time to throw. Intercepted at the 50. And that is the sort of play Mandalore desperately needed.
Absolutely.
Starting with excellent field position in Byzantine territory.
Yeah, real poor decision.
An ill-advised throw into double coverage.
Yeah. Harness sounded like he was beat tonight. That's the kind of throw we'd appreciate his analysis on. Definitely something went wrong there.
Clearly that was a fixed point in time. And another deep pass by Mandalore. All the way inside the 10. The Byzantine secondary is getting quite sloppy.
And John Rambo, who was the hero in Week 1, helping Mandalore score its only touchdown of the game, finally coming through here. Similar to UFP, there's just so many weapons. Sometimes particular receivers can go quiet most of the game.
1st and 10 from about the 10.5-yard line. Sack fumble recovered by Mini Predator at the 15.
And Mini Predator just about catches this fumble. It's so violent. It's Justinian, is it not?
No, that's 36.
Oh, yeah, Justinian's 26. Yeah, that's right. So maybe is that the other strong safety?
That's the second free safety.
Second free safety.
Arcadius, I think.
Okay. Well, I think that's the neat thing about the 4-2-5 is that rather than having the outside linebackers occasionally blitz as in a 3-4, the safeties can blitz fairly often.
And plenty of time for Gandalf. Into the end zone. No good. 4th and 11 for Mandalore.
And they do need to go for it. I'm glad
they're
to see them
going
actually trying to.
Into the end zone. No good. Turnover.
Well, it was a good effort. They still got a shot.
Mandalore desperately needs another turnover. Doctor all day scrambles outside to the 23.
Bold play call there. Play action out of the Maryland eye. Nobody home, but when you get that good of blocking, that play can happen. Only 2 or 3 receivers being guarded by lots of defenders, but they were so far off the line of scrimmage that Doctor Who had plenty of room to run.
Constantinople once again out of the I formation. Hands the ball off to Heraclius. Caught at the line of scrimmage. Picks up about a body length.
Well, if this record holds, Constantinople's going to be running away with this thing. Mandalore is going to slide 2 games back. And
Doctor out of the shotgun, outside to the left. Picks up the 1st down.
Indeed. And to continue, it'll be a 3-way logjam with teams with 2 losses apiece, UFP, Gotham, and Mandalore. And then it would just be the Byzantines alone at the top. So this would be a big win if they can finish it off.
The championship will be played in the Hippodrome.
Yeah.
Out of the shotgun with 2 backs, the Doctor throws deep. Incomplete pass.
Going for the kill.
It is a bit of a mystery why the run-heavy team is not running the clock out right now.
Yeah.
Hands the ball off to Heraclius. Picks up about 3 yards. If they'd done that the first time, they would have a manageable game.
Exactly, but I guess the good old computer wanting to make sure it keeps up the pass into the pass ratio takes this downfield stab on 1st down.
Hand off to Heraclius. Picks up about 3 again.
And then, they run out of the shotgun on 3rd and 7 when you probably wouldn't mind to see them go ahead and go for the 1st down and try to put this thing away.
They should seriously consider firing Zeno Leonid, the head coach, who is apparently a raving lunatic.
Let's go deep! Although, I wouldn't put it past certain NFL coaches, as bad as they are at decision-making and clock management, to make a similar call, Yeah, let's go beat them deep on 1st and 10, and all we need to do is throw in the clock. Yeah.
Idiots need to realize it's the unexpected thing for a reason.
Exactly. I mean, when it just harms you in so many ways, and the reward chance is so low.
Oh, wow! The Byzantine defensive tackle leaps up into the air and smacks that sucker down like nobody's business.
Gandalf's lack of speed just getting exposed. He can't move around in the pocket like Breeze.
Plenty of time across the middle. Picks up about 6. 3rd and 4, Mandalore. They're moving into the hurry-up offense. Gandalf out of the shotgun, one back. Drops back to pass. Hit. And he's sacked. 4th and 12, Mandalore.
Oh, look at that.
That's 5 sacks on the day for the Byzantines.
Oh, white flag. You gotta hate this call from the coaching staff.
It appears Mandalore has officially given up.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, hey, why don't you take a knee for us since we're going to punt it to you kind of thing. Sheesh.
The doctor out of the shotgun. Hands off to Heraclius. And he loses about a yard. 2nd down and 11 for the Byzantines from the 48. Another handoff to Heraclius. Stopped at the line again. 3rd and 11.
This is at least the timeout draining kind of football you wanted to see last drive.
I'd like a little bit more success in the running game, but it is
Right.
the right sort of call. 4th and 7 for the Byzantines across the 50-yard line, and they will punt and hope to pin Mandalore deep. Not this time, out the back of the end zone. It'll be a touchback for Mandalore.
Well, they finally, as we get in the game track here, it's been all about Gandalf under pressure. He has just not been up to the task. Constantinople's 20 points, I mean, you can pretty much give that. You would have liked to have seen Mandalore force a couple more turnovers, but 20's not so bad. It's that 7 on a team that drafted and invested so heavily in their offense that causes the loss. And it was the same thing in their 14-9 loss to Mobile. It's all about their offense.
Gandalf desperately needs a stellar performance from his offensive line in order to be able to pick up the victory. There you see him once again get sacked by a man coming around from the outside, unblocked.
That's exactly right. You know, it's like an offense with a pretty good pocket passing quarterback. Maybe Carson Palmer of the Raiders is the best analogy. If he had just a ton of great receivers, he would be in a similar position.
Gandalf throwing deep down the middle. Oh, and it's just overthrown. The wide receiver did have a step on the defense. Could have gone all the way if he'd connected.
Yeah, and that's his throw. I mean, he had time. He had a man. I'm disappointed in him. He's a 98 overall.
Plenty of time. Apparently no one open. The defensive end gets back up off the block after several seconds and plants Gandalf into the ground.
Yeah, he has time to do a few dance moves with the offensive tackle and then finally bid him adieu and make the
Heading
sack.
the other way. Handing off to Heraclius up the middle. To be 2nd and goal from the 1 for the Byzantines.
Well, hopefully they show some mercy and run the clock on out. It's pretty much
out of the shotgun
that
with
deal.
2 backs. It appears the Byzantines plan on throwing the ball. 2nd and goal from the 1. At least they're running the clock out.
Yep, that is true.
And he takes off running. Fumbles the ball. Nope, they're calling it an incomplete pass.
Yeah. For a second there, I thought it was a live ball and that everybody was just kind of hanging out.
That was generous of the referees. Hands off to Heraclius, cut behind the line for a loss of about 3. 4th and goal from the 4.
And with the game clock now less than the play clock, that should wrap it up here.
They're going to be real jerks. This will be the end of the game.
They are.
20-7. They are lined up for the field goal. Perhaps they won't kick it, though.
Okay, I guess that's true. I mean, this is the kind of move that could come back to haunt you in that last game of the season or in the playoffs. With
Billy
some
Wonka
bulletin
is
board.
about to break his leg right here.
Right. All they did, they went
They
for
kicked it at the last second,
Oh.
just to be bastards.
You got that right. Oh, nice 3-for-3 day for Wonka that way.
Mandalore can attempt to return the kick to at least save face. Or not.
He just kneels on it. They go home. Okay, then.
Someone start the bus.
Yeah.
Well, dare I say it, that was actually somewhat closer than it appears.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about those turnovers. To stay in the game on the road against Constantinople, you just can't lose the turnover battle. I mean, pull even, like 0-0, 1-1, 2-2 in the turnover battle, you might have a shot, but lose the turnover battle, no. That's going to be tough even if you're at home against the Byzantines. So, I agree.
Two coaches look identical.
Yeah, that's been kind of the dirty little secret around the league is we've got some of the island-style cloning going because I pretty much rattled off those coaches as quickly as I could when I was making the dynasties.
Set of octopus makes up the entirety of the coaching staff.
Right, and they all have
the lead.
They all have the same awkward ball match and stuff. Well, I just say awkward because of the way it's animated, you know. It's, yeah. But yeah, I think it ought to be interesting to see if anyone can step up to the challenge that Constantinople has presented. I think we've got several candidates, especially given that Macho Madness is now shifting into Brandon's control. He may very well win 6 in a row and go 6-2.
The Byzantines have definitely shown that they are vulnerable deep, especially if the offensive line can hold off the Byzantine front four.
Yeah, that's right, because Gandalf missed a couple of those even. So, folks, we thank you for joining us. We hope to see you next week as we move